Okay, x over 4 times what would equal x? Well, I heard a few different things. I heard x over 4 times 1. I heard x over 4 times 0. And I heard x over 4 times 4. If you multiply anything by 1, that's called the identity property of multiplication. Does multiplying something by 1 change the identity of it? No. So if we multiply x over 4 by 1, it's going to remain x over 4. That's the multiplication identity property. This is the multiplication by 0 property. When you multiply anything by 0, it becomes 0. We're wanting to get this back, and we haven't done that so far. But look right here. Isn't 4 like a 4 over a 1? So won't these cancel each other out? Because one on top, one on bottom, and then you just have x over 1, which is just x. So it's 4. Okay, now I need you to turn in your packet to page 9, because as I was stamping the homework, I gave y'all credit, but I saw a lot of wrong answers, so we need to go over these. All right. They want you to write the rule. When it says write the rule, they want it to be in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, they want the entire equation, and they already wrote the y equals, so all you need is the mx plus b. Well, to find the m, what can you do? Correct. You pick 2 points. So let me make myself some room to write. Which 2 points would you prefer to use? Okay, 4, 1, and 5, 2. So, if those are the 2 points that we're wanting to work with, then this 4 can be the x1, so that would be y1, and then 5, 2 would be your x2 and your y2. Then you just simply plug them in the slope formula, which you should all know by now, and if you don't, it's right up there on the wall. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 2 minus 1 is 1, 5 minus 4 is 1, and then 1 over 1 is just 1, right? So we know so far that our slope is 1x. Now we have to find our b. With a table, sometimes it's simple to find the b. Sometimes all you have to do is look for when x equals 0. But they don't have a 0 in this table, so I'll show you one way to do it, and then on the next problem I'll show you a different way to do it. One way to do it would be taking y equals mx plus b, and replacing the letters that you know. Like, so far we know that the m is 1. We don't know the b, that's what we're trying to figure out. We have an x and a y value, okay? We have lots of x's and y values, so you choose which one you want to work with, and it can be one of the ones you already chose to do your slope. So out of this table, which x and y do you prefer to use? Okay, if you use 4 and 1, 4 is the x, so it gets plugged in right here for x, and then 1 is the y, so it goes in the place of y. Then all you have to do is simplify and get b by itself. 1 equals 1 times 4, which is 4, plus b. Now to get b by itself, you just subtract that 4, and so b equals negative 3. So y equals 1x minus 3. So that's one way to work this problem. Pick 2 points, find the slope, that's your m, then plug it in the m place, pick another point, or use the same one, plug in the x and y, and get b by itself. Okay, now I'm going to show you a different method to do it. Say you don't want to take your time doing the slope formula. You don't always have to. If you see that in your table you have consecutive x values, like down here, 6 and 7 are consecutive. There's nothing skipped in between them, right? So if you focus in on where it's consecutive, I see that the x's are increasing by 1 and the y's are increasing by 1. Remember, slope is rise over run. Rise is up and down, like the y-axis. Run is left and right, like the x-axis. So your y's are increasing by 1, so that's your rise. And your runs are increasing by 1, so this one also has a slope of 1 over 1. That's another way of doing it if you don't want to take the time to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But we would, even if we'd done it, look, 12 minus 11 is 1, 7 minus 6 is 1. So this one also has a slope of 1x. Now to find the b, if you don't want to do it this way, you can fill in the missing components of the table till you get back to 0. This is 7, 6, so this would be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, right? But now we've got to fill in the missing y values. They're also going by 1, so 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 is the one across from the 0, right? So it's a y-intercept of 5. So if you don't want to find the y-intercept like that, you can do it like this. Okay, now I want you to try this one by yourself. Okay, now remember, you always have the method of picking 2 points and plugging them in the slope formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to find your m. Okay, that's always an option, is doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But sometimes you can save time by just looking at the table and seeing right here, that's only a jump of 1. So we're going to focus in on those numbers. The x's are jumping by 1s. And while they're doing that, the y's are doing what? But negative 4, correct? Because they're going down 4. Y is your rise. So the rise is negative 4. The run is 1. But if doing it that way does not work for you, just do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now to find the b, for this one is simple because it's already visible in the table. What is it? 0. Whenever your x is 0, the number in the y place is your y-intercept. Okay, let's try this one down here. Okay. Is there a place in the table that will let us know the slope? Are there any consecutive x values? Right here. There's no number skip between those two, are there? So let's focus in on those. To get from negative 1 to 0, it's just 1. But the y's are doing what? No. To get from negative 1 to positive 1, you go up 2 units, correct? So that means your rise is 2, your run is 1. So that's our slope. But like I said, if you do not know how to do it that way, just pick 2 points, plug it in the slope formula. Okay, now let's find the b. Is the b easy to find in this one? Yes, it's right there. 0, 1. Anytime your x value is 0, its corresponding y value is the y-intercept. Okay, try the next one by yourself. Let's go over it. Remember, to find your m, you always have the option of selecting 2 points and doing the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Does everybody feel comfortable finding slope that way? Okay, but there is a faster way when you have a table to look at. If there is part of the x column where numbers are consecutive, like right here, 3, 4, you can just focus in on those numbers and figure out the slope. They go up 1 in the x's and up 9 in the y's, so the slope is 9 over 1. You always put the y over x, rise over run. But if you can't do it that way, you just go to the slope formula. Now, for the b, it's not as easy as it was in the previous table because there's no visible 0, but we know that while these are jumping by 1s, these are jumping by 9s, so we can do 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So now let's fill it in. If this is going down by 9, to go down by 9 one more time would take you to what number? And then down 9 more would bring you to 8, and down 9 more would bring you to negative 1. Now remember though, if you can't do it that way, you always have that other option of writing out y equals mx plus b, picking a y and an x, like 1 and 8, plugging in your m, and then solving for your b. Okay, see if you do that, all I've done is I've taken this point, 1, 8, I've put the 8 in the place of y, the 1 in the place of x, my 9 in place of m, because I already figured that out, and now that just becomes 8 equals 9 plus b. When I subtract the 9 to get it away from the b equals 8 minus 9, which is negative 1. Okay, now let's try the last one. Are y'all now starting to understand this better? Or you can focus in on the table. Is there a place to focus in on? No, because look, first it goes up by 3, then it goes up by 3 again, but then it goes up by 6, and then it goes up by 3. So there are no consecutive x values. So you're going to have to do slope the old-fashioned y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So which points do you prefer to use? Okay, so if you're using 0, 0, and 6, 2, that would be x1, y1, x2, y2. And that would be 2 minus 0 over 6 minus 0, which is 2 over 6, and that reduces to 1/3. Okay, let's go over how to reduce in the calculator. In the calculator, if you go to alpha y equals n over d, and you just type in the fraction that you're trying to reduce, 2 over 6, and then hit enter, it will reduce it for you. If you type in a fraction and it spits out the same fraction, that means it's already in lowest terms and can't be reduced. Okay, but all you do is type in alpha y equals, and then number 1 for n over d, numerator over denominator, and let's say we're trying to reduce 8 over 10. You would just type in 8, and then 10 on the bottom, and hit enter, and it reduces to 4 over 5. You have got to remember how to get to that n over d, because on the EOC day, I cannot tell you. Okay, you have to know how to do it on your own. I'm not allowed to tell you anything that day. And more than likely, I won't even be with you that day. Page 10. A graph represents a function if it passes the vertical line test. A linear function forms a straight line when it's graphed. Okay, so in A through F, they've given you a picture of a graph, and they want you to answer 2 questions. They want to know whether it's a function, which means does it pass the vertical line test, and they want to know if it's linear, which means does it form a straight line. Okay, A, is it a function? Yes, that would definitely pass the vertical line test. Is it linear? Yes, that's a straight line. It has a negative slope because it's going down and a y-intercept of 4. Okay, B, is it a function? Yes. A function just means it passes the vertical line test. Is it linear? No, that's called a parabola. It's a quadratic function. All right, C, is it a function? Yes, it would pass the vertical line test. Is it a linear function? No, that's called a cubic function. All right, D, a lot. Because nowhere could you draw a vertical line and it hit it more than once. Because as it's going up, it's also slightly slanting right, so there'll never be like 2 points on top of each other. Okay, for D, is it a function? Yes. Is it linear? Okay, E, is it a function? Yes. That passes the vertical line test. Is it linear? Yes, it just has 0 slope, but it's still linear. It has 0 slope and a y-intercept of 4. Okay, for this one, is it a function? No, it would fail the vertical line test. Is it linear? No. What is the only line that would not be a function? A vertical line. Because the vertical line would hit a vertical line infinitely many times. Okay. Are the following tables linear? Okay. Okay, well look at the x's. The x's do what every time? They increase by 1. Okay, so that would make your run, if you were doing slope, that would make the run 1 because the x's are increasing by 1s. But look at the y's. First it's a decrease of 3, then it's a decrease of 1, then it's an increase of 1, and then it's an increase of 3. So there is a pattern, but that's not a linear pattern. Linear means it does the exact same thing every time, so this is no. So now try B. Try B. Okay, for B, is it linear? Yes. Okay, since it's linear, that means it has a slope. Can anybody tell me what the slope is? Just the slope, just the slope. -3 though. Because look, as the x's are increasing by 1s, that means your run would be 1 in the fraction. The y's are decreasing by 3 every time. So that's -3, and the -3 over 1 is just -3. What's the y-intercept? 1. Look, it's right there. 0, 1. Okay, now C and D are asking the exact same thing, but instead of them giving you the information as a table, they just list out the ordered pairs. So go ahead and try those two. C, look at the x's. To get from 3 to 5, that's an increase of 2. And then 5 to 7 is an increase of 2. 7 to 9 is an increase of 2. And 9 to 11 is an increase of 2. So 2 goes on the bottom. Your x's go on the bottom because run is on the bottom. And then the y's are all going down by 1. So -1 is your rise. So this one is linear, and that's the slope. -1/2. Okay, is D linear? No. Even though there is a linear pattern when you look at the x's, there is not with the y's. Okay, next page. Okay, so far they've given us graphs to look at and see if they're linear. They've given us tables, and they've given us lists of ordered pairs. Now they're giving us equations. Does A look linear? Okay, could you rewrite it into slope-intercept form? Okay, what would you do first? Okay, you can do that. -4 and move it over here with the x. Now on the left you have x minus 4, and on the right you have 2y. Now to get it in slope-intercept form, what would you do? Divide by 2, and you have x over 2, which is the same thing as 1 over 2x, right? Because there's an understood 1 right there. And then minus 2, because 4 over 2 is 2, equals y. And then not that you absolutely have to, but you could use the symmetric property at the end just to flip-flop the sides. 1/2 x minus 2. So that's definitely linear because we were able to rewrite it into slope-intercept form. Okay, for B, the first thing you try to accomplish when trying to get it in slope-intercept form is to get the y by itself. What would you have to do to get this y by itself? Divide it by x, because they're being multiplied. So y equals 4 over x. Is that linear? No. That's called a rational equation. Let me show you what it would look like on the calculator. Y equals, I'm going to have to use n over d to make a fraction. And now 4 over x. Okay, that's definitely not a straight line, is it? I just went to y equals and graphed this one. I don't know. Just to make it look like y'all's. Oh, y'all shouldn't have it. I guess this is the TI-84 Plus Silver Edition, and y'all's is just the TI-84 Plus, right? And but you know how some kids who have their own, like I think Jacob's, doesn't yours charge? That's why. It's made to look like the new ones, and so theirs charge and have a battery life. That's just what a rational equation looks like. It has two different parts. You'll learn it later. Okay, so this one's a no. What about C? No. Okay, well, why don't you attempt to get it in slope-intercept form, and then you'll know. If you're trying to get this in slope-intercept form, what would you do first? I would probably subtract this 12x and subtract it over there from the 5x. And now I have y equals negative 7x minus 9, and is that linear? Yes, so I'm going to circle it. Okay, what about D? Is it linear? Okay, let's graph it. Well, I'm not going to do that right now because you won't see it anyway. Right. Isn't that the same as y equals 0x plus 12? So it's just a line that's horizontal, 0 slope, that would cross the y-axis up at 12. So that's linear. What about E? No. That is not a linear function. It has to be in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, two more problems. Y equals 5x minus 9. What they want you to do here is they want you to rewrite the equation 5x minus 9 3 times, but instead of writing an x, they've given you numbers to replace x with. The first time they're telling you to plug what in for x? 0. When you do that, 5 times 0 minus 9 becomes negative 9. So when you plug 0 in for your x value, your y value becomes negative 9. Then you can plot that point by just going down 9 on the y-axis, and that's your y-intercept. The next time they want you to plug in what? 1. So when your x value is 1, what does that make your y value? Negative 4. So that's right 1, down 4. Yeah. And then the next time they want you to plug in what for x? 2, which would make a 10, and 10 minus 9 is 1. So when you plug in a 2, you get a 1. And 2, 1 is right 2, up 1. And then you can just connect those points with a straight line. Okay, what's different about B? Correct. So the first thing you have to do is get it in y equals mx plus b form. So what would we have to do first? Correct. And that's pretty much all we have to do, right? Now it's y equals negative 4 minus 3x, or we could go ahead and reverse those and put the negative 3x first, the negative 4 second. And then you do the same thing. Y equals negative 3 times x minus 4. And you're going to do it 3 times because they've given you 3 x values to plug in. The first time they want you to plug in an x value of negative 2. The second time, negative 1. The third time, 0. When you plug in a negative 2, what y value do you get? You get a 2. Because look, negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. Positive 6 minus 4 is 2. When you plug in a negative 1, what do you get? Negative 1, because that becomes a positive 3 when they're multiplied, and a positive 3 minus 4 is negative 1. When you plug in a 0 for x, what do you get for y? Negative 4. And then you graph it, you connect the line, and you're done. You can switch out. There's no homework.